The last letter. All his life, Walter had never thought there would come a day when he would sit alone in a nursing home, gazing out the window with distant eyes, waiting for something, even he wasn't sure what. The days here passed slowly, quietly, like autumn leaves falling in the yard. Every morning, he sat in his old rocking chair, watching the sunlight filter through the trees, listening to the birds sing, and reminiscing about the days gone by. When he was younger, Walter had been a strict father. After his wife passed away from a serious illness, he raised their son, Daniel, alone, hoping the boy would grow into a strong, independent man. But he had been too rigid. The harsh words, the constant demands for improvement, the nods of approval instead of words of praise. All of it had created an invisible distance between father and son. Walter recalled the days when Daniel was little. The boy used to run around the house, chattering excitedly about the smallest things. But Walter, burdened with work and life's responsibilities, would only respond with brief, distracted replies. As Daniel grew older, he began avoiding conversations with his father. When he became a man, he left home to build a life in another city. The letters Walter sent were met with short, sporadic responses, until eventually, they stopped coming altogether. Years passed. His hair had turned gray, his hands had grown unsteady. He no longer expected any letters or phone calls from his son. He had convinced himself that Daniel had his own life, his own responsibilities, and perhaps he no longer remembered his old father. But one day, while slowly sipping tea in the nursing home's garden, a young nurse approached him, holding an old envelope in her hand. She smiled gently and said, "Mr. Walter, we just found this letter in the archives. It seems to have been lost for a long time." Walter frowned, his aged eyes widening as he recognized the familiar handwriting on the envelope. It was Daniel's. His hands trembled as he opened the letter, his fingers no longer as steady as they once were. As he read the first lines, his heart clenched. "Dad, I don't know if you'll ever read this letter, but if you do, I want you to know that I've always loved you. Even though you never said it out loud, I understand now how much you sacrificed for me. When I was little, I only saw your strictness. I didn't notice the nights you quietly fixed my broken bicycle, or the early mornings you woke up just to get me ready for school. I used to be angry at you for never saying, 'I'm proud of you,' but now I realize that you were always watching over me, in your own way. The things I didn't understand back then, I finally do, now that I'm a father myself. You know, there are nights when I watch my own son sleep, and I remember how you used to tuck me in. I once thought I would be a different kind of father, one who says I love you more often, who hugs his child tightly. But then I realized that love isn't just in words or embraces. It's in silent sacrifices, in worries left unspoken. If I could turn back time, I would spend more of it with you. I would tell you how grateful I am for everything you did for me. But I hope it's not too late. If you read this letter, please call me. I miss you, Dad." Tears welled up in Walter's eyes, dripping onto the paper. He couldn't remember the last time he cried. Maybe it was when his wife passed away. Maybe it was the day Daniel left home without looking back. But now, these tears weren't of regret. They were of a deep, unexpected joy. He reached for the phone beside him, his trembling fingers dialing a number he hadn't called in years. The dial tone rang. He held his breath, fearing that Daniel had changed his number, or worse, that he wouldn't answer. Then, a familiar voice came through, filled with surprise, a bit choked with emotion. "Dad?" Walter closed his eyes, trying to steady himself, but the sound of his son's voice made his old heart tremble. 1 second passed, then 2, and with all the strength he had left, he whispered, "Son, I miss you." The other end of the line went silent for a moment. Then, a quiet sob was heard. Daniel was crying, too. But they weren't tears of regret. They were tears of forgiveness, of love, and of a new beginning. The next day, the nursing home welcomed a special visitor, a middle-aged man with slightly graying hair, carrying a bouquet of flowers and a hesitant smile. When he saw his father, Daniel stepped forward and embraced him tightly. This time, there was no distance between them. No more resentment. No more years of silence. There was only the love of a father and son, two men learning how to love each other again. And for the first time in many years, Walter felt his heart grow warm once more.